Welcome to the Socialette podcast, where we empower you with the marketing know-how you need to create the business of your dreams. I'm your host, Steph Taylor, and I'm a marketing nerd, Shiraz lover, and passport stamp collector. Join me as I dive into all things small business marketing and deliver them to you in bite-sized, fluff-free lessons every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Let's get learning. Hey, welcome back to the Socialette podcast. This is episode 89. Today, I'm answering another listener question. If you have a question that you would like answered, remember to send it through via Instagram DM, either at WeAreWildBloom or at stephtaylor.co, and I'll answer it in one of my Friday podcast episodes. Today's question that I'm answering is, how did you decide on your brand theme? I'm going to answer the question, but I'll also share a couple of tips on choosing your own brand theme or your brand visuals more generally. If you're not on my email list, you will have missed a huge announcement. Doors to Socialette Elite are now open. Yay! I'll be closing the doors on 23rd of November, and when they reopen again in December, the price will go up. So if you're thinking about joining, now is the time to do it. What's inside Socialette Elite? Well, each month I'll be dropping a masterclass, 3 bonus podcast episodes, and an implementation plan on topics that will seriously skyrocket your business. Everything will be far more in-depth than I have been going in these little podcast episodes, so it's perfect for those of you who are serious about growing your business, like really serious. There is also a virtual co-working community, which is not a Facebook group, because who actually needs another Facebook group? I'm in like over 100. The idea behind the co-working community is that you log on whenever you're working on your business or when you just feel like a chat, and you can work virtually with other motivated business owners, bounce ideas, make friends, even collaborate. So to find out more and join, head to stephtaylor.co/elite, ELITE. Okay, time to answer the question. How did I decide on a brand theme? Well, I'm really indecisive, so the short answer to this question is that it took a lot of time and a rebrand. I have 2 brands. So WildBloom is the one where my marketing consultancy lives, and stephtaylor.co is where my podcast, courses, ebooks, and now membership site, they all live there. And I guess Socialette is kind of a brand in its own way. So yeah, make that 3 brands. WildBloom was the first of these 3 brands. And when I first launched it, the brand visuals were a complete DIY job. I was pretty much broke when I launched it, and like I can hold my own in Photoshop and Illustrator, so I figured I'd just throw something really basic together. And the result wasn't bad, but it wasn't nearly as good as what the current branding is. Anyway, at the start of 2018, the business was getting enough traction and we had clients, and I finally had a bit of cash to invest in getting a real branding designer to redo the colors, logos, and fonts. Massive shout out to Maddie Rawlings from The Binding, because she did an amazing job with the WildBloom branding. She created so many great concepts that it took a lot of back and forth before I could actually decide on one. And honestly, how did I decide in the end? Well, I had a list of words describing how I wanted the brand to look and feel, and I just chose the visuals that fit that the best. Because our ideal client is the owner of a wellness business, I wanted it to feel really natural, beachy, relaxed. But then on the flip side, my branding for stephtaylor.co and Socialette as well, that's all DIY at the moment. Yes, even this podcast cover art is a DIY job. You'll notice that the brand look and feel for these is quite different to the WildBloom one. It's a lot more girly, and that's because I'm trying to resonate with a totally different audience to WildBloom branding. So having been through the whole branding process a couple of times, here are a couple of my top tips for choosing your brand theme. So firstly, know your audience and know what will resonate with them. And then write out a list of words describing how you'd like your brand to look, feel, sound. Make a list of brands whose visuals you want to draw inspiration from. And just as a side note, there's a difference between liking a brand's visuals and wanting to draw inspiration from them. You can like them, but that doesn't mean that yours has to look that way. Then find a good designer who can take these things and turn them into solid concepts. Seriously, don't underestimate the power of a good designer. If you must DIY, remember that less is more. Don't try to go all complicated with swirly text and all sorts of icons. A plain text logo is totally fine if you're starting out, and it looks a lot more professional than a poorly designed over-the-top one. If you're choosing your own colors, think about going for a pre-made color palette online. There are loads on Pinterest. It might sound nice, but picking your own colors, often you'll end up with colors that don't look very good together. The original colors I chose for Wild Bloom, they didn't look very good after a while. They felt pretty dated, pretty stale, and I got over them very quickly. Make sure that if you're working with a designer, they give you a style guide, or if you're DIYing, make sure that you create your own style guide. Your style guide is the one thing that will keep your brand consistent, even as you grow and you start to hire people or outsource. You can hand over your style guide to anyone who's designing anything for your brand, and they'll have a reference to what fonts, colors, imagery, icons, everything that they should use. There's a really great one that you can download for Canva. I think it costs like $4. I've linked to it at stephtaylor.co/SG. Once you've decided on your brand theme, keep it consistent. Refer back to your style guide whenever you are creating anything. That's it for this episode. Don't forget to head on over to stephtaylor.co/elite to find out more about Socialite Elite and lock in the limited time founding member price before it goes up. Also, there's a couple of extra bonuses that you'll get if you register before the 23rd of November, so make sure you don't miss out on those. All right, if you haven't hit subscribe yet in iTunes or follow in Spotify, make sure you do so that you don't miss any new episodes released every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you haven't left a rating and a review in iTunes or Apple Podcasts, I'd love it if you could please take 2 seconds to do so. It means a lot to me when you do. Thanks so much for listening. Catch you next time.